Hello, callsign Latrobe here, and I'll be reviewing a fight Lemmy sent to me. He'll be fighting a 109G2 in his 109G2. Now, even though you're both in the same plane and you can't really exploit your strengths against his weaknesses, knowing what the plane is capable of is still important. So, the strengths of a 109G2 are that it has a very good climb rate. It's also very good at accelerating and regaining its E quickly. It's a pretty good turn fighter, especially when you start dropping its flaps at low speeds. Because of its great engine, flaps, and rudder control, the 109G2, as well as all 109s, are excellent stall fighters. That powerful engine does come with a downside though. One of the major weaknesses of a 109 is its engine torque. At slow speeds, a 109 will be very difficult, if not impossible, to roll to the right. An expert 109 pilot can actually use the engine torque to pull off some maneuvers that very few other fighters can pull, but someone new to the 109s may find the engine torque difficult to work with. The biggest weakness of the 109s is its compressibility. Once you start getting over 400 miles per hour, the controls will start to get a little stiff. At 450 miles per hour, you will want to be pulling your throttle back if you haven't started to do so already. At 500 miles per hour, your controls will be pretty much locked up, and you'll be needing to use elevator trim to pull out of any dive. Because of this compressibility problem, 109s are not very good boom and zooming aircraft. The last weak point in the 109G2 is its firepower. The 109G2 carries two 7.92mm machine guns and one 20mm cannon. The gondola option lets you carry two extra 20mm cannons, but gondolas are absolutely terrible and I would not recommend taking them. So while two 7.92mm machine guns and one 20mm cannon are kind of underpowering when compared to something like a P-47 with 850 caliber machine guns, concentrating those guns in the nose means one well-placed burst is more than enough to down any aircraft. So we make first contact with the 109 co-out with you. Your merge here is pretty poor. You don't create any horizontal or vertical separation, so you're giving the 109 a fairly easy head-on shot if he wants to take the shot. What you want to be doing is positioning yourself to the side of your opponent, either to the left or to the right, to create some horizontal separation. This will give him a harder shot if he wants to try and take a head-on shot. Even if this is a DA fight and both pilots agree to no hose shots, it's still important to create those separations, and that's because it sets you up for your first turn. You want to plan your first turn and start executing it during the merge. If you have a first turn plan and your opponent doesn't, then this will give you a huge advantage in the first turn. This is why all the really good pilots say a good merge can win the fight. Vertically, you want to do the same thing by either diving below or climbing above your opponent to create vertical separation. This too gives them a harder shot for a head-on shot, and set yourself up for your first turn. Horizontal and vertical separation on their own work very well, but when you combine them, it just makes head-on shots impossible for your opponent and gives you such a huge advantage into the first turn. Looking at the point where you cross each other's 3 to 9 line, we see you have yet to make any maneuver while the 109 has already gotten part way through his first turn. This wouldn't be a problem if you were planning to use a lag turn with more E to outclimb your opponent, but you don't. You start to pull up as soon as you cross the 3 to 9 line, and the 109 has already beat you to the turn. You can recover from this though if you keep your lift vector behind the 109's 3 to 9 line. This will keep you inside his turn, force him to bleed more E pulling a tighter turn, and set you up for a chance to get on his 6 o'clock, and this is exactly what you do. Pulling straight up puts your lift vector behind the 109's 3 to 9 line, and this will keep you inside his turn. This is the flight path you want to be pulling, up and into the 109 while keeping your lift vector behind him. If the 109 wants to make a shot, then he'll have to pull a tighter turn, bleed more E in his climbing turn, and even then it will be a very difficult shot to make. You, on the other hand, have converted all your E to altitude, while your opponent has used up some E in a turn. This will give you a small altitude advantage that you can exploit. Had you tried to match the 109's turn, you would have pulled out in front of him since he beat you to the turn, and he would have an easy shot to end the fight early. You pull up and into the 109, keeping your lift vector behind his 3 to 9 line. This keeps you inside the 109's turn and he can't make a shot at the top of the loop. Now you gain a big advantage here. You are behind the 109 and this is a great chance to go into a lag pursuit to better improve your positional advantage. However, you make a mistake nosing down and trying to cut the corner to try and gain a lead pursuit where you're trying to line up a shot. This is a bad move as this now puts you inside the 109's turn and it gives up your positional advantage. What you should have done is fly a lag pursuit to keep behind the 109. This would give you time to clearly judge both planes' E states and help you conserve some speed while the 109 bleeds his speed, pulling a tighter turn to get around on you. He will lose speed doing this, giving you a big speed advantage that you can use to be aggressive and go for the kill, or be more passive, convert the speed into altitude, and work the 109 from the altitude advantage. If the 109 reverses his turn, then you will get a brief moment to take a shot as the 109 crosses in front of you. If you miss the shot, then you can easily use your speed advantage to outclimb the 109 and re-engage from a better position. Now since you pulled that lead turn and lost the positional advantage, the 109 almost gets a shot on you, but you avoid it at the last second. Now here's a second excellent opportunity for you. You've just bled a little speed climbing while the 109 has gained some speed diving for a shot. This is a great chance to pull your throttle back a little, drop down into him and go on the offensive. However, you don't chop your throttle and you also appear to wing stall slightly, trying to pull for a tighter turn. Right here, if you had chopped throttle and used a little rudder to swing the nose around, then the 109 would be getting a face full of lead. It looked like you had that very idea in mind, but you just didn't execute the plan properly. You pull hard into the 109 and get a nice shot opportunity. Unfortunately, you miss your shot. And here's where staying full throttle works against you, as your speed starts to carry you out in front of the 109 and you lose your positional advantage. Now here's a big mistake. You roll right and away from the 109. All this does is give the 109 your 6 o'clock. What you need to do was a left-hand climbing turn into the 109 and pull your throttle back a little. This would get you inside the 109's turn and deny him a shot. The 109 would build up speed in a dive while you lose speed in a climb and work your throttle. The 109 would overshoot and you would have the option to either use your rudder and wing over into him for a shot, or play a little less aggressively and start a rolling scissors fight. What I mean about giving up your 6 o'clock is if you had pulled up and into the 109, it would position your 6 o'clock further away from the 109. This would force him to completely change his maneuver if he wants to gain your 6 o'clock, or else he will overshoot when he tries to go for the shot. When you roll right and away from the 109, this points your 6 o'clock at your opponent. The 109 has to do very little to gain your 6 and is at no risk of overshooting you. Now you're in big trouble with the 109 dead on your 6. It's going to take a drastic maneuver to get him off your 6 and set up for the overshoot. You don't really do that though. You look more worried about avoiding the shot than forcing the overshoot. You try some barrel rolls to force an overshoot, but that won't work without using some throttle work. Here you finally do the right thing and use some throttle work and pull hard into the 109 to force an overshoot, but then you make the mistake of going full throttle again and the 109 regains your 6 o'clock. The 109 pilot flies against you perfectly with lag pursuits and lag turns to stay behind you. What you really need to be doing is chopping your throttle and pulling hard into the 109 to bleed speed, get him faster than you, increase the closure rate, get inside his turn and force the overshoot. Then when he overshoots, you can go on the offensive. If it looks like he's going to be able to cut inside your turn for a shot, then simply reverse your turn and start a scissors fight. Pull hard into the 109 and chop throttle. The 109 will start to close on you and try for a shot. If you can't make the shot, then continue to turn, make him get close and force the overshoot. If it looks like he's able to pull for a shot, then reverse your turn. It's also a good idea to drop below his nose when you do this, so he can't line up an easy crossing shot, and nosing down for the shot will increase his speed, making the closure rate higher. You can continue to do this until he gets too close with more speed and overshoots, or breaks off his attack to reposition, giving you time to regain your E and gain separation. Once again, you try some barrel roll maneuvers at full throttle. These barrel rolls might have worked if you had chopped your throttle as well to increase the closure rate, and this would help force the overshoot. However, you stay full throttle and this keeps you out in front of the 109, where he keeps putting shots into you and finally finishes you off. Some of the things you did well were you appear to have pretty good situational awareness. There were a few moments where it looked like you didn't quite know where the 109 was, but overall you showed good situational awareness. You are also pretty smooth on the controls, which is important as any jerky movements bleed off a lot of your energy. Again, there were a few moments where you were a little too stiff on the controls and it caused you a small wing stall, but you recovered immediately and overall you flew very smoothly. You also looked to have a very good understanding of ACM. You knew what moves you needed to pull to gain the best advantage during this fight. Some things you can work on are your merge. You did not create any horizontal or vertical separation. You also did not react to the 109's lead turn until after you passed this 3 to 9 line. Your gunnery could use a little work as well. The one shot that you clearly had to end the fight, you missed. A little tip, when I'm lining up my shots, I focus on two things: my gun sight and my opponent's flight path. I ignore and look past any canopy framing and where my plane is in the air and only focus on my gun sight and my opponent's flight path. I predict where my opponent is going to fly to and focus on my gun sight at the same time and point my gun sight at his predicted flight path, correcting my gun sight, not my plane, to any further moves he makes, and pull the trigger. Your pursuit choice and lift vector could use some work. A lot of times you were trying to pull a lead pursuit, possibly trying to get a shot, when you should have been pulling a pure or lag pursuit. This also puts your lift vector in front of the 109 in many instances. If you are not behind your opponent's 3 to 9 line, then you want to position your lift vector behind his 3 to 9 line so you can get behind him. Your biggest problem during this fight was your throttle work. During the whole fight, except for one instance, you were full throttle. There are times when you want to pull your throttle back to slow down, either to keep from overshooting or to force an overshoot. In this fight, I'm almost certain the 109 pilot was working his throttle while you were full throttle, and this helped him immensely in forcing an overshoot. And that's my review of this fight. If anyone wants me to review one of your fights, then you can send it to me at my email. Details are in the description. I hope this review was helpful to you, and I'll see you in game.